Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, great to be here.
Today we're going to be talking about financial advisors.
Yeah, should be interesting.
So let's get right to it.
Okay.
Is hiring a financial advisor really just for like the super rich?
Not at all. A lot of people think that, but really financial guidance can be helpful no matter how much you make or how much you have.
So you're saying you don't need to be like a millionaire to get advice?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, someone might inherit some money suddenly and need help figuring out what to do.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. They might not know how to manage it.
Right. An advisor can look at everything and make a plan to invest it safely.
So it sounds like an advisor can be really helpful in those stressful situations.
Definitely. And another time when they can be really useful is with taxes.
Oh yeah, like how?
If you're selling a house or if you're starting a business, there are a lot of tax implications.
Right. And you need to know how to handle that.
Exactly. An advisor can help you understand those and make good decisions.
So they're kind of like a financial detective in a way.
I like that analogy. Yeah, they can help you find opportunities and avoid problems.
And I guess they can be helpful with other big life changes too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like getting married or having kids or buying a house.
Those all have financial implications.
For sure. And an advisor can walk you through it all and help you make the right choices.
So it's not just about investments. It's about planning for your whole life.
Exactly. They'll look at your goals and your values and how much risk you're comfortable with.
And then they make a plan for you.
Exactly. A roadmap to help you stay on track even when things change.
It sounds like a real partnership working together toward a common goal.
That's the idea. You need to be able to communicate openly and trust each other.
Okay, so let's say someone decides they do need an advisor. How do they find the right one?
Well, the first thing to know is that not all financial advisors are the same.
Right, just like any profession, I guess.
Exactly. They have different specialties and different personalities.
So you need to find one that's a good fit for you.
Right. Some might focus just on investments while others do more comprehensive planning.
So you need to figure what you need help with.
Exactly. If you just need someone to manage your investments, you look for someone with that experience.
And if you need help with budgeting and other things, you find someone who does that.
Exactly. And don't forget about personality, too.
Oh, yeah. You're going to be sharing a lot of personal information.
Exactly. So you want someone, you're comfortable with someone who will listen to you.
You want someone you can trust.
Right. And you also need to think about their approach to planning.
Like, what do you mean?
Some are more conservative, some are more aggressive, some focus on short-term gains, some focus on long-term growth.
So you need to find someone whose style matches yours.
Exactly. And don't forget about practical stuff like fees and how easy they are to get a hold of.
Fees are important.
Yeah.
You need to be able to afford their services.
Right. Some charge by the hour, some charge a percentage of your assets, some do both.
So you need to understand how they're paid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you should always watch out for red flags.
Like what kind of red flags?
Well, someone who pressures you to make decisions quickly or pushes certain products without really understanding your needs.
That sounds like a bad sign.
It is. A good advisor will take the time to educate you and answer your questions.
They should empower you to make your own decisions.
Exactly. And another red flag is someone who is evasive about their fees.
Oh, yeah. Transparency is important.
Absolutely. If they're not upfront about their fees, that's a problem.
You should always ask about that.
For sure.
What?
And you can also check their credentials and their history.
Oh, yeah. How do you do that?
You can use the SEC website or Finera's broker check.
What else?
Those websites where you can verify their credentials and see if they've had any disciplinary actions.
So it's kind of like a background check.
Right. You want to make sure you're working with someone reputable.
This has been really helpful. So far, we've talked about why you might need a financial advisor and how to find one.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
And in the next part, we'll dive into the different types of advisors, like robo-advisors, and how to figure out which one is right for you.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned for that. Welcome back to our deep dive on financial advisors. So in the last part, we talked about why you might need an advisor and how to find one.
Right. We covered the basics.
Now I want to dig into the different types of advisors out there.
Yeah, there are more options now than ever before.
Right. I keep hearing about these robo-advisors. What are those all about?
Well, robo-advisors are basically online platforms that use algorithms to manage your investments.
So instead of talking to a human, you interact with a computer.
Exactly. You answer some questions about your goals and your risk tolerance, and the algorithm creates a portfolio for you.
And does it like automatically adjust your investments over time?
Yeah, it'll rebalance your portfolio as needed based on market conditions.
So it sounds pretty hands-off.
It is. It's a very automated approach.
So what are some of the advantages of using a robo-advisor?
Well, one of the biggest advantages is the cost. They're typically much cheaper than human advisors.
That makes sense. They don't have all the overhead.
Right. And they're also very convenient. You can manage everything online or through an app.
So you can check on your investments anytime, anywhere.
Exactly. And another advantage is that they remove emotion from the equation.
Oh yeah, I've heard that emotions can lead to bad investment decisions.
They definitely can. But robo-advisors just follow the algorithm. They don't get scared or greedy.
So they help you stay disciplined.
Exactly. They stick to the plan no matter what's happening in the market.
This is all sounding pretty good. But I'm sure there are some downsides too, right?
Of course, every approach has its pros and cons.
So what are some things to consider before going with a robo-advisor?
Well, the biggest drawback for some people is the lack of human interaction.
Right. Some people really value that personal relationship with an advisor.
Exactly. And while some robo-advisors do offer limited access to human advisors, it's not the same as having a dedicated advisor who knows you and your situation.
So if you have complex questions or need more personalized advice, a robo-advisor might not be enough.
Right. They're really best for people who are comfortable with technology and who have relatively straightforward financial needs.
And I guess they mainly focus on investments, right?
That's right. They might not offer help with things like budgeting or insurance or estate planning.
So if you need a more holistic approach, you might need a human advisor.
Or you could consider a hybrid model.
A hybrid model. What's that?
It's kind of a combination of a robo-advisor and a human advisor.
So you get the best of both worlds.
Exactly. You might have your investments managed by an algorithm, but you also have access to a human advisor for more personalized guidance.
That sounds like a pretty good option for a lot of people.
It can be. It really depends on your individual needs and preferences.
Okay, so we've got human advisors, robo-advisors, and hybrid models. How do you know which one is right for you?
Well, it really comes down to a few key factors.
Like what?
First, how comfortable are you with technology? If you're not very tech-savvy, a robo-advisor might not be the best fit.
Right. You might prefer working with a human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And second, how complex are your financial needs? If you just need help with investing, a robo-advisor or a hybrid model might be sufficient.
But if you have more complicated needs, you'll probably want a human advisor.
Right. And finally, how much do you value personal interaction? If you want someone you can talk to and bounce ideas off of, you'll probably prefer a human advisor or at least a hybrid model.
This is all really helpful. It sounds like there's a solution out there for everyone.
I think so.
Yeah.
Key is to do your research and choose the option that best meets your needs.
Okay, so we've talked about the different types of advisors. Now, how do you know if an advisor is trustworthy?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, not all advisors are created equal.
Right, there are some bad apples out there.
Exactly. So you need to be careful.
What are some red flags to watch out for?
One big red flag is an advisor who pressures you to make quick decisions.
Oh yeah, they shouldn't be rushing you.
Exactly. They should take the time to understand your needs and explain everything clearly.
And what about fees?
Fees are definitely something to pay attention to. You should always ask about fees up front and make sure you understand how the advisor is compensated.
So they should be transparent about that.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're not, that's a red flag.
And what about their credentials?
You should always check their credentials and their disciplinary history.
Oh yeah, how do you do that?
You can use the SEC website or FineRA's broker check.
And those websites will tell you if they've had any problems in the past.
Exactly. It's like doing a background check.
That's a good idea. You want to make sure you're working with someone reputable.
Absolutely. And you can also ask for references from other clients.
That's a great idea. It's always good to hear from people who have actually worked with the advisor.
Exactly. They can give you insights that you wouldn't get from just looking at credentials.
This has been a really helpful discussion about the different types of financial advisors and how to choose the right one for you.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
In the next part, we'll talk about some common myths about financial advisors, and we'll also discuss the importance of building a strong relationship with your advisor.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into financial advisors.
Yeah, it's been a good discussion so far.
Definitely. So in this last part, I want to talk about some of the myths and misconceptions about financial advisors.
Yeah, there are a lot of those floating around.
Right, so let's try to debunk some of them.
Okay, sounds good.
So what's one of the biggest myths you hear?
I think one of the most common ones is that financial advisors are only for the wealthy.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one too.
A lot of people think you need to be a millionaire to even talk to a financial advisor.
But that's not true at all, is it?
Nope, not at all. Financial advice can be helpful at any stage of life and at any income level.
Right. It's not about how much money you have. It's about making smart decisions with the money you do have.
Exactly. And a financial advisor can help you do that.
So whether you're just starting out or you're planning for retirement, an advisor can be a valuable resource.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what's another myth that we should address?
Well, another common one is that financial advisors are just salespeople who are trying to push products on you.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely heard that one too.
And unfortunately, there are some bad apples out there.
Right. There are always going to be some people who are more interested in making a quick buck than in helping their clients.
Exactly. But that's not true of all advisors.
So how can you tell the difference between a good advisor and a bad one?
Well, one of the best ways is to ask about their fees and how they get paid.
Right. You want to make sure they're being transparent about that.
Exactly. A good advisor will be upfront about their fees, and they'll explain everything clearly so you understand how they're compensated.
And what about their credentials? Should you ask about those?
Absolutely. You should always check their credentials and make sure they're properly licensed and registered.
And you can do that online, right?
Yes, you can use the SEC website or FineRise Broker Check to verify their credentials and see if they've had any disciplinary actions.
So it's important to do your research.
It is. You want to make sure you're working with someone who is qualified and trustworthy.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the myths about financial advisors. Now, what about the relationship between an advisor and their client?
Well, that's a really important part of the equation.
How so?
Well, a good advisor-client relationship is built on trust and communication.
Right. You need to be able to trust your advisor and feel comfortable talking to them about your financial goals and concerns.
Exactly. And you also need to be able to communicate openly and honestly with each other.
So it's like any other relationship. It takes work from both sides.
It does. But when you have a strong relationship with your advisor, it can make a big difference in your financial success.
And how can you build that kind of relationship?
Well, it starts with finding the right advisor, someone who you feel comfortable with and who you believe has your best interests at heart.
And once you've found that person, you need to be open and honest with them about your financial situation and your goals.
Exactly. And you also need to be willing to listen to their advice and ask questions if you don't understand something.
So it's a two-way street.
It is. But when it works well, it can be a really rewarding relationship.
Well, this has been a really informative deep dive into the world of financial advisors.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of important ground.
We've talked about what financial advisors do, the different types of advisors out there, how to find the right advisor for you, and how to build a strong relationship with your advisor.
And we've debunked some common myths along the way.
Exactly. So hopefully our listeners now have a better understanding of what financial advisors are all about and whether working with one might be right for them.
I hope so.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.